Hello. Let's talk about different voice, different party have different opinion on the Ukraine war. The mainstream media are mostly supported by the defense ministry and the Democratic Party. They are interest group or voice group, but there are different group. And in the United States, we have a very strong democracy, and everybody, even you, this former government official, they can have a different opinion than the current government. So let's listen to what the former government official and the analyst is talking about. He basically is saying the U.S. is driving the Ukraine to play tough with Russian and persuade Russia, Ukraine do not obey Minsk agreement. And his opinion is that basically U.S. Persuade Ukraine to provoke the Russian to attack the Ukraine. The beneficiary is the U.S. defense industry. He say basically if U.S. and Russia are not be friends, and there could be no peace, and the global will be a chaos. There will be always a fight somewhere. That's I have similar opinion. Let's also talk about why the former U.S. government official he can say something opposite of Washington government. It is because U.S. have very strong democracy. Why U.S. have a special democracy? Let's first need to look into the background of the United States. Basically, the United States has a very different constitution. When U.S. government was founded, the founding father, our founding father are mostly come from Europe, and also their parents are Puritan, and they themselves are Puritan. They well educated, and they want the citizen of the United States to really enjoy the have the right of the basically our founding father. We usually call the seven founding father is George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, our second president, Benjamin Franklin, and Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, and James Madison. They wrote most of the. I think Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and all of them wrote the Constitution. So because they are very smart, they were educated. Their parents and the family was being persecuted in Europe by the king. Basically, their parents and the ancestor wanted the right, and the king do not want the right, so they either kill them or drive them away, right? So they came to the United States. Most of them are Puritan. They basically very religious, very hardworking, and these people basically form the very unique constitution about the United States. That's why we have such a high degree of freedom of speech. Like each of the citizens, like myself and the defense analyst, he was former U.S. government official. He can say something opposite of Washington D.C. Basically, in the U.S., the key reason is because we have amendment to the constitutional right. Basically, they come together at the same time. The U.S. is the only government, only country in the world where the Constitution specifies each individual's right come before the government. That is mean Here we define the individual, like each of the individual people have certain rights, and the government cannot infringe or violate the right of the people. Right? You can do something else on your rule, but you cannot overrule the people. So this right comes before the government. That's the only difference between the U.S. Constitution and the Constitution in other countries. Every other country in the world, they also have this democracy, assembly, voting right, but they never wrote that people's right come before the government. That's the part of the U.S. That's my perception. So let's say what's the right of the people. Freedom of speech, the first article. Freedom of speech, the price, the right of people to assembly and the consult on the common good to apply to the government for redress grievance. So basically, there is a grievance, they are not happy, they have the right to protest. So they also, number 5, a well-regulated military compels the body of people being best the security of the free state. Every people, the right of people to bear arms. Why bear arms is very important? Because the government, they can just ignore the constitution, right? They can come to your home, come to your territory and just throw you away and take you to prison, right? So, and also, when you have a gun, even you are like 90 years old, you barely can walk, or even a small child, once you have the gun, you almost have the same power as like a strong man, right? Everybody is just like you shoot you like 2 bullets, you're gone, right? You're dead. So even the president, like he's not much more powerful than each of the individual, right? So basically, the gun force everybody pretty much have the equal, pretty much equal in terms of death, in the face of death, right? So you see many like other country, like a government official or even like the president of a factory can punish citizen or worker very heavily. That's not going to happen in the U.S. because the worker can just buy a gun, shoot you, right? So this right of gun right basically enforce everyone pretty much equal in the face of death, right? Your life, the most precious is your life, right? So these 2 articles, I think, are very fundamental to the right of U.S. citizen and to the free function of free society. Although there are some big interest group which they became very powerful recently. For example, the defense industry, the big tech like Google, Twitter, right? The Google, Twitter, Facebook basically banned the Hunter Biden scandal just a few days before the last election. The Pentagon, lots of people working from the industry and the Pentagon, they interchange together. Basically, defense industry people will go to Pentagon to work, and the Pentagon will, when they retire, or they come out to Pentagon, they'll fight a good position in the defense industry, because defense industry will reward them to start a war, for example, right? If we start a war, why we Americans so eager to join the war in Ukraine, send so many military equipment? That's because defense industry wanted the war. They just come out of Afghanistan, right? They just finished the war, and if there's no new war, the defense industry won't make big money, right? See, they want big money, and they have a big budget, $700 billion, right? Even they spend $1 billion, they can hire 2,000 or 3,000 their people to stay in Washington and persuade the government official and the senator and Congress to start a war or do something tough to Russian, or provoke Russian, or make the tension between Russia and Ukraine very high, right? This is what the analyst was talking about. The analyst basically means that the U.S. some U.S. official basically persuade Ukraine government to play tough with Russian, do not obey Minsk agreement. They just there are two Minsk agreements. The second one is the final one. The U.S. the analyst was saying the U.S. pursued the Ukraine government to do not obey the second, do not, even though the Ukraine government signed the paper of the agreement. Now Ukraine government do not obey the rule and they play tough with Russia. They keep attacking the Donetsk region, and they eventually provoke the Russian to attack Ukraine. So what is the winner? Who is the winner? The defense industry, right? They are 500 billion, and they want even more. That's why they wanted the war, right? So you can see, it's not a U.S. citizen like myself. I want peace. I want peace with Russia and with Ukraine, with everybody, right? No civilian want a war. Everyone will suffer, like only civilian. But the defense industry wanted the war. They wanted more money than the $700 billion, right? They have their employees, their persuasion employees stay in Washington, keep pushing Washington into the war. They probably also have people in Ukraine to persuade the Ukraine government to play tough with Russians so that eventually the war will break out. That's what is going on. Just my personal opinion. As I said earlier, that I'm an American. I have the right of speech. We Americans have full democracy. Although we don't have the same in the United States. Different group of people have different power. For example, U.S. has defense industry. They want war, right? And there is Republican Party, they are more nationalist. They just want to every interest of U.S. citizens. They don't care about anybody, although they care less about. They focus more on the U.S. Citizen, less than the foreign country. While the Democratic Party is more globalized. They want it'd be nice. We know everyone in the world. In fact, that's a hypocrisy. In fact, everybody know. In Christian belief, everyone was born evil and sinful. Right? We are born sinful and evil. We are no good. Right? Like Biden or the U.S. government is a Democrat is not going to love you people from another country. Because they have interest, the big tech, mostly Democrat. The big tech want the industry, they want the global, every country merge together without a border so that they have a bigger market, right? If the China close or Russia close, they have a smaller market, right? So that's why, and also most of the voters are from Latin America, the illegal immigrant. They eventually support, the black people eventually support more on the Democratic side. So the Republican is more white. So there is different interest group, including the Google, Twitter, Facebook. They have different. Unluckily, Elon Musk bought Twitter a few days ago. I think that's a great thing. It make more neutral, not all the media, all the big tech side with Democrat. Now the media, right now, most of the media are side with the Democrat. That's not good. I have this video basically to tell there are different voices about the Ukraine war. There are different voices about Russia. There are different. The Russia war, it's not Russia's all 100% Russia's fault. Ukraine has fault. They didn't obey Minsk agreement, right? U.S. has fault. U.S. the government is supported by the Pentagon, the government is supported by the defense industry. The defense industry wanted war. U.S. citizens don't want war, but the defense industry want more money and wanted war after they finish Afghanistan. All right. Thanks for watching. If you like my video, please hit the like button. Thanks a lot. Bye now.